It may seem like there's no shortage of water here on Earth. After all, we see it in rivers like the Charles River here in Boston, in oceans and rainwater. We use it every day for things like drinking, cleaning, cooking, farming, and recreation. But did you know that we can use less than 1% of Earth's water for these activities? The rest is either too salty, too frozen, or too dirty to be considered clean enough and safe enough. The clean water that comes out of our faucets is part of a complicated process that engineers have designed. As populations grow, the demand for water only increases. But how do people get the water they need when they live in really dry environments? To answer this question, I reached out to my friends Becca and Kate in Arizona, where engineers have designed some creative ways to reuse water so that we can do more with less. Becca and Kate are in an experimental city in central Arizona called Arcosanti. Arcosanti started with the idea that a city could be designed with the surrounding environment in mind. This would save resources and improve quality of life for everyone who lives there. For example, rooms are designed with lots of windows to let sunlight in so people use less electricity. Since there's not a lot of water in the desert, engineers at Arcosanti are finding ways to use less of it and reuse water whenever they can.
Here at Arcosanti, in the high desert of central Arizona, where on a good year we only get about 15 inches of rainfall a year, we harvest that rainwater into a gray water system. We have some grass and trees here. They flourish really because we reuse not only rainwater, but of course shower water and dishwater from our kitchen sinks. Gray water is water that has been used once for something like showering or doing the dishes in your kitchen sink, and then is filtered and can be reused for all sorts of things, for cleaning things, for watering gardens and crops.
There are three kinds of water engineers study and consider at Arcosanti. Wastewater, water that is too dirty to be used again. Gray water, water that has been used at least once and can be used again. Pure water, water that is clean and safe enough to drink. Kate was still curious about how the gray water system at Arcosanti works as part of a series of steps called a process. To learn more, she went to talk to Scott Riley, the habitat coordinator at Arcosanti. Scott works with water resource engineers who use their creativity and knowledge of math and science to design technologies that solve problems related to providing people with access to clean and safe water. Scott told Kate that the steps to reuse gray water happen in a certain order to make the gray water as clean as possible. The gray water begins in the showers and sinks in the dorms, runs through the drain, comes down the building through a series of pipes, and eventually is collected in the gray water tank. Scott showed Kate the underground tank where the gray water is collected after it's used, but before it's filtered. This helps to separate the gray water from the wastewater and store it until it's ready to be treated. From there, the water is pumped to the filtration station, where it is filtered and redistributed in the garden to feed the plants and trees.
This is one of the filters used to filter out the particles in the gray water. It enters the filter, it goes down through, and it's forced through this membrane system, and it comes out much cleaner, and then it heads out to the distribution field. The gray water is distributed through tubes. They run in the land, and the pumping system brings it up and runs it through the ground.
In designing this system, Scott and his team used something called the engineering design process, which is a series of steps that engineers use to solve problems. First, they identify the problem. There's not a lot of water in the desert, and a lot of the water they were using every day was going to waste. Next, they investigated, imagined, and planned to figure out a system that would work for Arcosanti's needs. When they were ready, they created their water reuse process, and they still haven't stopped testing and improving it in order to make it even more effective and efficient.
engineers imagined how we could recycle some of the water that we use through a gray water system. We're constantly testing ideas, trying out new engineering schemes, using our imaginations to figure out some of the constraints and the opportunities of building a town here on the edge of a mesa in central Arizona, and learning from our mistakes. The solutions we find here on Earth in the desert environment are going to be useful to us far, far down the road in the continuing exploration of our universe.
This got us thinking about other ways that the water reuse processes developed at Arcosanti can be applied to other extreme environments, perhaps even ones on other planets. Becca met up with Moses Milazzo, a research scientist at the USGS Astrogeology Center, who was interested in how we might one day live on a planet like Mars.
So, how is Mars an extreme environment?
There are lots of different kinds of extreme environments. For example, here at Arcosanti, this place is in a desert environment, and so water is very scarce here. Another extreme environment is the Martian environment, where water is far more scarce than it is even here in the desert.
How are the gray water systems that are being designed here at Arcosanti different from what might be engineered on a Mars habitat in the future?
There are a couple of unique challenges for Mars, especially when you're talking about engineering gray water systems. For example, the temperatures on Mars are much, much lower, and they very rarely exceed freezing, so whatever gray water system you engineer has to be warmed up so that you can keep the water flowing. When you're engineering a gray water system, you'll have to go through several iterations to better understand how do you have a gray water system that works in a very cold environment.
Becca and Kate were really excited to know that there are students living at Arcosanti who are learning about the gray water system.
Hey guys, can you tell me a little bit about yourselves?
Well, I'm Herman. Currently, I'm from Glasgow.
Hi, I'm Ninsu. I'm from Myanmar.
Normally, the water from the sink and the shower goes down the drain as wastewater, but we have been working to figure out the ways how to reuse that water efficiently.
Thank goodness for students like Ninsu and Harmon, who hope to someday teach others about the importance of water conservation and reuse. We've learned so much about how the engineers at Arcosanti designed a process to reuse and conserve water in a dry environment. It's amazing to think that the same steps we take here on Earth can help us design a process we can use on other planets where access to water is even more limited. Even if you don't live in a desert or aren't planning a trip to Mars anytime soon, access to clean and fresh water is important no matter where you are. It will be up to engineers like you to help us conserve our planet's most precious resource.